Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here at the Patriot Desk. Welcome to all of our friends and neighbors from around the world. And I mean around the world, folks. I find it very, very flattering that we have viewers from, and we've gotten emails from people who are in Great Britain, South Africa, Finland, Iceland, Ireland, Australia, and other areas around this globe. And why are they tuning in? They're tuning in because they've had it with the tyranny, with the tyrants in their own countries. And I must tell you that a lot of this comes about, a lot of the good news comes about as a result of what the truckers did in Canada, on how they protested and how they showed the world that you could make changes if you get involved. Folks, I'm just going to add a little lighting here to my studio here, and hopefully there we go. So I want to, again, thank you all for coming. Now, tonight we're going to be speaking to someone in a few minutes here in New Jersey that kind of goes along with our theme of all politics is local and people on local levels of governments must get involved. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Now, Thursday night is the night that we air regarding issues surrounding the tragedy. And that's all I can say. It's a tragedy that's occurring in Canada. Make no mistake about it, since we've been broadcasting, a lot of the political people in this nation are beginning to realize that they got their eye off the ball. Something terrible is happening in Canada. We all know now what's going on, and we're going to do our best to work very, very hard as their neighbors to expose what's going on. And very briefly, for those of you who are new to our broadcast, and this is the American night, we address issues here in America, but the situation in Canada is really gotten to a point where I believe that the national security of the United States could be placed in danger. And we as a nation, within the framework of the law, within the framework of our Constitution, and within the framework of the United States Congress, must address those issues that are occurring in Canada. And we'll talk more about that on Thursday night. Before we get to our guest, I've been on the airwaves most of the day today, a lot of the networks, discussing what happened in Buffalo, New York. What a tragedy. An individual walks into a store, shoots people, kills people. Another incident involving a church where people were shot and killed. Well, of course, the left, the Democrats, the communists, they take this opportunity when these tragedies occur and they start pushing their anti-gun agenda. And folks, I've said this all along. And look, I don't mince words, and I don't waver on my opinions regarding these issues. To begin with, the issue is not a gun issue. Now, of course, when I say that, the left gets all worked up. Oh, it is a gun issue. If there weren't any guns, these people wouldn't have been killed. Well, folks, you ever think about if there were more guns, but in the hands of law-abiding citizens who are trained, that there'd be a lot less carnage, a lot less death and destruction? But that's not my point. My point is, and I've been asked by reporters day in and day out, what do you propose there, Lieutenant? What do you propose as at least part of a solution to a problem that doesn't seem to be getting solved by our politicians? And I've said all along that part of the solution is to give the police, the law enforcement authorities, from local government to the federal government, the tools they need, the tools they need to be proactive. And what tools? What is the one tool that we can use in law enforcement, from local governments to federal government, that could put an end to a lot of this carnage? It's called the gathering of intelligence, the analyzing of intelligence. Give the police the manpower they need, give them the tools they need to do cyber investigations, to track down bad actors, and to do what they must do to prevent this carnage from happening. It works. And you know how I know it works, folks? Remember, I was assigned to the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force as a military intelligence officer. Let me tell you, we've got the greatest intelligence apparatus on planet Earth in this country. If we mirror what they do in the military and use it for law enforcement purposes, we could do a lot good for the people of this country. If a person wants to go out and kill somebody, they'll use a knife, a gun, a bomb, a car. They're just hell-bent on killing people. But we need to be committed as a country to do what must be done in order to prevent these things from happening. And instead of waiting for the police to arrive, I've always said there is no problem in the cities that allow people to carry concealed weapons. The individuals in the United States of America who own weapons, like myself, we're trained, we know how to use those weapons, and we know when to use them if we have to use them. So, folks, it boils down to this. Either we continue to leave this to politicians to look at, to have their committee hearings, and to have their meetings, to get their photo ops, or we do something about the problem. It's all about funding cops, not defunding cops, funding them. So we'll talk more about that as we move forward. All right, I'd like to get to our guests, folks. I've got to tell you that we have shared with people all over the world, not only this country, that you need to get involved in politics from a local level all the way to a federal level. All politics is local. We said you start at school boards and you work your way up. And in the United States of America, we're going to see a significant change in the political landscape of this nation. And it's going to begin at local school board levels. And it's going to work its way up through county governments, state governments, and the federal government. So I have someone here who's now going to be with us. She has decided to run for the county executive seat in Bergen County, New Jersey. Her name is Linda T. Barber. Linda, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lieutenant. I'm honored to be on your show. I'm a follower of yours, and I think you do amazing work. So thank you. As a Republican, I'm thrilled with the work that you do for us.
Well, thank you, Linda. Now, I'll tell you, when I first met you and met your team, and I'd like you to talk about them in a minute, I thought this was an extraordinary political ticket. Never seen anything like this, at least in my time of remembrance in politics in New Jersey, where you have a group of women on the same ticket running for office. And it seems to me that this would be a ticket that would be embraced by Republicans all over the state. So can you give us a little idea? And what's important is if you could share how it all began, because there are people watching right now, Linda, who want to get involved and they're afraid to get involved. They don't know how to get involved. So if you could speak to that issue to begin with, that would be a real good education for people who are watching.
I will. Thank you, Lieutenant. So first, I'd like to let everybody know I am running for Bergen County Executive, and I get this question a lot. What is exactly the Bergen County Executive's role? Well, it's basically the governor of our county. Our county is about 943,000 people. So basically, you're the governor of the county. So we actually handpicked our team. Our team is, we have a councilman above us, wow, I'm at a loss for words here. A congressman above us. And then we have myself running for county executive. We have Paul Dugan, who is running for commissioner. We have Mary Jo Gunchin, who is running for commissioner. We have Angelique Hakim. So everybody brings a different talent and a different field of expertise. We're basically all business people. We're not political people. Mary Jo was a former mayor of Tuxedo Park. And so she brings a lot of expertise to our team. Angelique is into business. I'm into business. Paul is a supervisor at motor vehicle. So we're very diversified in our talents. So we're very proud of our team. Our team is the only one that can beat the Democrats in November. We are column one. And so how I got involved, I've been on the Board of Ed when I was younger. I ran for council. I live in a very Democratic borough, but I ran for council as a Republican, and I got the most votes and raised the most money.
Now, Linda, let me stop you there for a minute, because this is interesting. So you started on a school board.
Yes.
Then you went to city council. Now there are people watching that are asking the question, how do you get involved? What do you do? Who do you know? Because people are under the impression, rightfully so, that you got to have political connections in order to get anywhere. But you just described to me was a grassroots team of business people who are actually connected to no one but yourselves.
Right. So actually, I got involved. I was in my latter 20s, and I purchased my first apartment. So, your first purchase and you're excited, you go to the meeting. And the president of the homeowners association was so impressed because I actually read the whole prospectus. You know, it's your first home, it's your first. So, and the attorney and the accountant contradicted one another. And so I brought this to their attention and it was accurate. So the president called me the next day and said, "We want to sponsor you to run on the Board of Ed." I said, "I don't have any children." He said, "Perfect, because you don't have a hidden agenda." So I said, "That's absolutely correct." So I served on the Board of Education here in Fort Lee, and I continued on. I started the Mayor's Wellness Program, but you don't have to know political people to get involved. You just have to get involved. Get involved in your local organization. Unfortunately, I'm very disappointed in our NJGOP and our Bergen County Republican organization because they're not uniting our party, they're dividing our party. And we need our party to be united or we will lose our party. So we are trying on a county level to make certain that we can unite all Republicans. And so they do not need to know politicians. Just get involved. You know, get involved in your local town. Get to know the people, your councilman, your board of education. You know, especially if you have children in the school system, you want to know your board of education candidates or your board of education board. So I would recommend doing that first and then finding out what you would like. I chose to run for county executive because I've lived in this county for over 40 years. I've watched the deterioration of the county. We were once looked upon as a very, very, very great county. We no longer are looked upon that. Our crime has spiked up. Drugs coming through the county has spiked up. We no longer protect our children. In my opinion, with this catch and release, we're not protecting our children. We're not protecting our residents. We're not protecting our businesses. So we need to get back to making our residents and our businesses a priority. I don't think that it has been done.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that now. Crime is going up everywhere, and you mentioned in Bergen County. You know, what astonishes me around this country, let alone the state, is that, and I find it here in New Jersey, and particularly, people seem to elect the same people that are causing the same problems and difficulties that they are living under, and people have said to me, "Well, it's worthless, it's senseless. Why get involved?" There are a lot of people in our party discouraged. They don't even want to go vote, and we've encouraged them, vote. Please go out there and vote. So how do you convince people? And I'm sure they're going to want to know this. What separates you from the others? Will you get in office? Will you keep your word? This, you know, when I ran for office, Linda, one of the things I had to overcome was being painted in the same picture of politicians. And thank God I was able to share a message that I am different, and this is why. Now, you have a message. I know you do. And what you articulated tonight, I think, is really good because you're sharing with people how they can get involved. But what makes you stand out? Okay, what is it? Your background? Is it your knowledge?
Well, my background goes without saying, but I think that I have integrity and I have passion. I have passion for, and I'm not doing this for my ego. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for every single business and resident in Bergen County, because I truly care about our county. And I've watched the deterioration of our county, and it's not acceptable. You know, I'm a realtor, so I understand the position of residents. You know, because of our state as well, and everything that was imposed upon us from a state point of view, our taxes are through the roof in New Jersey. I don't know if anybody realizes that. So we get hit on a state level and a county level. If I can help release the burden on a county level, we can keep more people in Bergen County. People are leaving in droves. We are fortunate that people from New York got very disgusted and came over the river to reside in New Jersey, or New Jersey would have been in a lot of trouble. So as a realtor, I'm very, I realize the residents, what they need and what they want. And the businesses during COVID shutdowns, I watched businesses. I write a column for Dining Out New Jersey magazine on restaurants. So I'm very passionate about our businesses. And which will bring me to another thing. During COVID, the current administration in One Bergen Plaza in the Jim Tedesco circle gave themselves bonuses. While we were all struggling, our businesses were struggling to stay open. Our residents were moving out because they just could not afford it. And they were giving themselves bonuses, and they were working from home. And they were giving themselves bonuses anywhere from 5,000 up to 22,500. And the people that were actually in the field were getting 1,000, 1,500, the security detail, but no one else got it. So, in my opinion, those are the people that should have been getting the bonuses that were putting their themselves in harm's way and at risk, not the people that were sitting behind their desk at home. So, the four things that myself and my team are running on are integrity. We're running on accountability. We're running on fiscal responsibility, transparency, and enhancing public safety. So I think everything that we're going to cover tonight is going to be within those four talking points that we're very, very passionate about, myself and my team.
Let's talk about public safety. New Jersey is a train wreck when it comes to the Office of Attorney General under Phil Murphy. Several weeks ago, the Attorney General sent a memo out that police officers are no longer to pursue even felons. We have, like you say, a bail reform package that hinders the ability of the police to keep guys and gals who are arrested in jail. They're released even before they get to headquarters, if you will. I mean, it is a complete train wreck. Now, each county, as you say, and I like the way you framed it, you're like a governor of your own county. What are your proposals regarding crime reform, real crime reform in this state? And how are we going to help the police in your county?
Well, first of all, I am pro blue, 150%. I'm pro blue. I don't think that our officers are given enough authority. They're not given enough support. So what I would like to do is I'd like to go back to, remember that slogan, you do the crime, do the time? Yeah. Well, I think we need to return back to that slogan where if you commit a crime, you will do the time. And you have to do the sufficient amount of time. But I mean, if we can also try and rehabilitate them while they are incarcerated, but we have to make certain this catch and release, it's a joke. They know that they'll be out within 1 hour. And, it's not fair to the police. Let the police do their jobs. I come from a generation, if a police officer looked at us, we were shaking in our shoes. So today, it's like, they flip them the bird as they're getting in someone's car to steal someone's car because they know that their hands are tied. We have to untie our law enforcement's hands and give them the tools and give them the support that they need to keep our community safe. And right now, I do not feel safe. I've lived in my town for many, many, many years, and I walk the town because it's a very city-like setting. But I'm looking over my shoulder now when I walk because of the things that are occurring. We never had women, people trying to rape a woman broad daylight on the street and everything. I mean, and the amount of drugs. I do live near the George Washington Bridge, so I understand it's a very, very congested area. But we've never had what we have now, and it's all because of this stupid catch and release, and that really needs to stop. It needs to go back to protecting our residents and our children. What are we doing for our children? We're not setting a good example, and we're not protecting them, and that's what our responsibility is to do. So what I want to do is I want to work with our law enforcement, and I want to push back on the state when they want to impose these things and tell them, no, not in our county. This needs to be discussed. Our current county executive, because the state did away with ICE, our current county executive is now taking in prisoners from Passaic County. So, I say, he should have hired a bus and driven them around the county, because what happens is when they're released back into our county. And, we had a very, very nice, quiet county. And, I'd like it to go back to where everyone, every business, every resident felt safe in their home, and even on the streets.
Well, you see, the issue, as you say, is who's in office now. We have a Democrat governor. Hopefully, will be replaced next time around. But
Right.
when you have a Democrat governor and you have Democrat county executives and you have Democrat mayors and Democrat school boards, you have a mess on your hands.
Correct.
Because one of the assets I see in you and your colleagues who are running with you is that, as my wife has always described when I always ran for office, make sure I never see a collar around your neck and a leash to it. Because the day that happens is the day you ought to leave, because then you have sold your soul to some higher authority. And I see that happening all over New Jersey. I'm sure it happens around the country in many places, but I see that historically here in New Jersey, where people elect other people to office during a campaign. I got to tell you, Linda, I've never seen anything like I'm seeing in New Jersey now. There are people running for office. I mean, the citizens don't even know who they are. As a matter of fact, the incumbents running for office, citizens never knew who they are. They never saw them. Now I see you, and I see your colleagues. You're out. You're at events. You're shaking hands. You're trying to unite the party. But there is something that does bother me. Now I tell it like it is, and here's where I get in trouble with the Republican Party. But I don't care, and I don't say that, braggadocious. I don't care because I owe no one anything. I want to live this way. We got a lot of power. We do. We got a lot of power with the Campaign for America program we have. We're now national and international. So you know what? I don't worry about the things I say. As long as I tell the truth, I'll always tell the truth. But here's what troubles me. I read something last week, and I'd like you to weigh in on this. And I try to not blame, particular people. I won't mention names, but I will mention an incident. Very disturbing. Here at Campaign for America, and Republicans, by the way, grassroots Republicans around this state, working very hard to unite the party, working very hard to respect everyone, whether you're establishment, whether you're identified as this or that. We will disagree with you on your policies. We will make it clear we will not support you, but we respect you. And we will respect what you say, anytime, any place. Now, we are the party, the Republican Party, here in New Jersey and around the country, that hold up the banners that we believe in the Constitution of the United States. We believe in free speech. We believe in freedom of assembly, and we welcome everyone with any ideas where we could have an intelligent conversation about policy. Now, this is what you've been doing. Intelligent conversations with people. You've been articulating very well the policies and plans you have for your county. But is it true? And I asked the question because I found it hard to believe. Is it true that you and your colleagues were denied entry into a Republican event or fundraiser? Is that a fact?
Yes, it's very, very sad. And so I call it the Bullies Club. So we have had to deal with the Bullies Club. Now, a chairman of our Republican club gives this person, who is a municipal chair for a town in Bergen County called Rochelle Park. He had an event, and the event was highlighting a female candidate who I have been supporting. So I asked the rest of the team, I said, we should go because, we go to every event, let's go. Even though this municipal chair has spoken poorly about myself and my team because he's going with who the chairman of the BCRO, Bergen County Republican Organization, is supporting. So, yes, we were denied. And you know what I said? I said, first of all, it was against the Constitution to deny us. We're Republicans. We're all Republicans. The night they had a candidates night, and I helped the gentleman who's running against me. And my friend said, why are you helping him? I said, we're all Republicans. We have to help one another. So with leadership like that, we will never have a united party. We need to get better leadership. We are in Bergen County. We are putting up a gentleman. He's terrific. He's a true Republican to take on the current chairman in June. The election will be after the primary, but we are doing our best to get a good leader in for us to lead by example so our party can now be united. When I said to this chairman, I said, I can help you build the party. Look how much money I raised in the last gubernatorial race. And when he looked at me with a blind stare, I said, he doesn't really want to build this party. So the answer is yes, we were denied, and it's really a shame. And that kind of behavior will divide our party and will ruin our party.
Well, believe me, I'm very saddened to hear that, because I don't know, maybe some of these people who are in office are living the backroom deal scenario from years ago, but this is a whole new generation of people who are getting involved in politics, and frankly, they're fed up with that kind of nonsense.
Right.
And the thing is this: look, I welcome anybody on this broadcast, and they could be critical of me as long as they're civil. And I welcome everybody everywhere, because this is America. But my point is this: what you just shared with me was the hypocrisy of our party. And it's not only here, it's no doubt it's nationwide. There's a lot of this going on every level of government. And this has got to stop. But here's my fear about what you just shared with me. My fear is that the Democrats are sitting back laughing, and they're going to say they are going to commit political suicide. They're so busy fighting amongst themselves, they're not going to have enough time to deal with us come November. And this is what my fear is. Now, in New Jersey, we had a good run in the gubernatorial race. I'm hoping that the grassroots people stay with us. Now, a lot of Democrats are willing to come over. Believe me, I'm out there talking to a lot of people, Democrat conservatives, but if they hear stuff like this that's going on in the party, you know what it's going to do? They're not going to just not vote Republican. They're not going to vote.
Right.
And
right.
therein lies a problem.
Right.
So you're right. We need leaders who are going to stand out. It's very disheartening to hear, but we still carry on, right? You're still moving on.
Oh, I said, you know what? All he did was give me more fuel to go on, as well as my team. We said, listen, we're going forward. We know we're dealing with bullies, but we have to go forward, and we have to, because we're the only team that could beat the Democrats in November. And I've heard this from several Democrats. The morale in Hackensack right now under Jim Tedesco is very, very bad. And I want to change that as well. I always want the workplace to be a better place. I don't care. I have 70 towns in Bergen County. I want to work with every single mayor. I don't care what your political beliefs are, what your party is. I want to work for the betterment of our businesses and our residents. I want to work on both sides. I don't only want to work with Republican mayors. I want to work with both. I have a lot of friends who are Democratic mayors, and I just think that if you work together, then again we could show them Republicans work well with everyone. We don't just work with our party, we work well with everyone, and that will help gain more respect. I think we've lost a lot of respect from a lot of people, but I want to emphasize to everyone, it is very, very, very important to vote. Your voice matters. And I tell people, please do not complain if you did not vote, because you've got the opportunity to make the change. So please don't take that lightly, and please vote, because it's very, very important.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Well said. And,
thank you, Lieutenant.
And we'll see you real soon. I know I'm going to see you Wednesday night.
Yes. Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you very much.
I wish you the best. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, just hang in there, because we do have some information we're going to share with you regarding some of the things happening around America. And then Thursday night, we'll be working on our Canadian broadcasting. And we've got a lot of news for you in Canada, a lot of good news as to the progress we're making in building our team to do the research that needs to be done about the Trudeau government. And all that information, once it's put together, is going to go to the United States Congress, to the Parliament in Canada, and it's going to go worldwide, because I think people need to know what's going on in Canada, and what's going on in Canada could certainly happen in their country. Well, let's get back to the United States for a minute. There are some terrible, terrible things happening here. We know that. But one of the things that I believe should be on the minds of every American is the Democrat Party under Joe Biden is about to drag us into a war. Now, folks, I've got to tell you, it's just astonishing what this administration is doing with our military. To begin with, everything that we see happening now in Ukraine, happening now in Europe with regard to military actions is a result of Joe Biden cowardly surrendering ground in Afghanistan, surrendering our military, surrendering the national resolve of the United States in Afghanistan. So there it was, folks. There was the turning point, which has led up and continues to lead up to everything that we're seeing happen now. So Joe Biden, after that withdrawal, poked his finger in the nose of Putin, and then Putin gathered 150,000 troops on the Russian-Ukraine border. Continuously, he told Joe Biden, do you hear what I'm telling you, Joe? Knock it off, lay off. We don't want Ukraine in NATO. And Biden kept on pushing his finger in Putin's face. And now look where we are today. But it gets worse, folks. Not only are we seeing this carnage happen in Ukraine, but we're beginning to see American troops deployed to Poland and to other NATO countries. Of course, the government here will say, well, they're training. Well, folks, I heard that same scenario in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, back in the 60s and 70s. We're only going there to train. 58,000 troops killed in action, hundreds of thousands wounded, and you could just multiply that by 10 with regard to civilian deaths. It is a war that our troops won. American soldiers, Canadian soldiers, soldiers from the free world who were deployed to South Vietnam, they won every battle. You check that out. They won that every battle. It was the politicians that surrendered, the politicians that walked away, the politicians that opened the gates for the North Vietnamese to come in and to take control of that country. The fact of the matter is, folks, is that when politicians get involved in a situation where they want to send your children, my children, our children into a war, they better make sure that it is a war that we could win. Now we've got a problem developing with NATO. With NATO, all right. You got Finland and Sweden want to become members of NATO, which is fine. They're sovereign countries, and they should be able to do what they want to do. But here is my worry: that when this happens, will Vladimir Putin decide to take a risk, to cross the line, and to launch some sort of military action against one or two of those nations? If he does that, you could be absolutely sure, at least in my view, that Article 5 will be invoked and the United States ground troops will end up in a war, a bad war. And I say that because, folks, history tells me, history, not opinion, not a thought-up conclusion in my mind, but history tells me that the military organization that will lead the charge will be the United States government. I don't see any European nation stepping up as the vanguard, as the point of that spear, fighting the Russians in a ground war. I don't see it, folks. I've never seen it. It was always American troops going first, and their good neighbors, the blood of the Canadian military was right with them, shoulder to shoulder. And may I add, Great Britain, the people of Great Britain, very, very strong in helping us. And then the Australians. You notice what I'm saying? Think about this, folks. Canadians, the Australians, Great Britain. All these countries are not in Europe, all right? Not in Europe per se. They're not close to the ground war as they would be, because the troops here in the United States, Canada, Australia, and Great Britain, they're the ones. And there's some other free countries in there that I failed to mention, but they're there, okay? My point is that the ones closest to the war, the ones closest threatened, why don't they lead the charge? Why don't Germany lead the charge? Why don't France lead the charge? You know, I mean, give me a break, folks. There comes a time when the United States of America has to stop being the police officers of the world. And I've said this all along. There's not a piece of real estate on this planet, especially in Europe, that the soil is not stained with American blood. My point is this, folks. If there's going to be a war, then that war should be led by those people who are mostly threatened. Vladimir Putin does not, dare not, threaten the United States of America. If he does, he knows that the cost and price he will pay will be enormous. But where's Germany? Where's France? Where are some of those nations in Europe that will be directly impacted by an attack from Russia on one of the NATO countries? So my point is, we're going to be dragged into a war, folks. American troops are going to be dragged into a war, and it's something that should not happen. Our first president, George Washington, made it very clear. Don't get involved. It would be a very dangerous thing for the Americans to get involved in any type of foreign military intervention. And it has been that way forever. Joe Biden has created an atmosphere in this country and around the world that is dangerous. Dangerous to the national security of the United States and dangerous to the national security of many other nations. And then you got a guy like Trudeau, a tyrant like him. You got a tyrant like that guy, all right, who is more concerned about enslaving his people to his communist laws than freeing them and giving them a quality of life that all free people should deserve, just north of our border. It's just amazing, folks. It's amazing what we in this country are ignoring. It's amazing what we're not paying attention to. And what we should be paying attention to is where all this is going. Where are our children and grandchildren going to be in the next few years? I don't want my grandchildren to be fighting a ground war in Europe, as my generation was fighting a ground war in Vietnam, as my father's generation was fighting a ground war in Europe. Europeans, European Union, those of you in NATO who are in Europe, stand up, fight, be strong. One day the Germans are cutting off oil to Russia. The next day the oil flow is going. The French Macron, who's another little tyrant that's running around the world, he's got one policy on a Monday, another policy on a Tuesday. You see, folks, they're trying to avoid sending their troops in a face-to-face battle with the Russians. That's the way it is, folks. That's a reality not many politicians want to talk about, because they know the reality for the United States of America, if it comes to that, is going to be bad. This is why it's important that we here in America wake up. We need to be educated. Now, let me talk about education for a minute. You talk to high school students lately? You talk to college students lately? You talk to some people in politics lately? Ask them questions like, where's Germany? Where's Canada? What's going on with the Trudeau government? What's going on with the United States government? Who's the leader of this nation? What's the capital of that nation? They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. When I read about today that some high school students here in the United States were suspended from a school district for not using the proper pronoun of a individual who was either a female or a male or back and forth. I mean, folks, we're supposed to be educating our children, not indoctrinating them. We've got a military that's a mess. Now, Lieutenant, you've been in the military for 25 years. How could you say that? I could say it because I'm still connected with a lot of the men and women in the United States military. And to a person, they've told me they can't wait to get out. The time I was in, the time my father was in, the time the men and women of this country were in, times past, they couldn't wait to get in. Now I'm hearing they can't wait to get out. And when I ask them why, they say they're fed up to here, worried to death that if they say to a male officer, sir, and a female officer, ma'am, and it's not the right pronoun, they could be brought up on charges. They're afraid of getting court-martialed. And then the United States Air Force, they have a cry room. Well, they call it a timeout room. If you got to scream and holler and you're upset over something, you could ask your commanding officer if you could leave for a few minutes and go to a room. A bunch of crybabies, for goodness sakes. You should all line up in one line, and we should get General George Patton back, and he should slap every single one of your coward faces. And he should begin with the generals of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. From General Milley down, you should have your faces slapped. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves over what you've done to this country, what you've done to our military, what you've done to our allies. Shame on you. But the problem is there's not enough politicians with the guts and courage to stand up and to put it to these individuals the way that I just put it. But they are going to get something put to them very, very soon. And that's going to be the elections of November 2022 here in the United States of America. The United States Congress, believe me, I'm very confident about this, is going to become a Republican-dominated Congress. We, the people of the United States, are going to take control of our destiny because we're going to elect people to Congress that A, are conservatives, and B, that are not Republicans who are going to betray us after they get elected to office. And once we take control of Congress, the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate, we're going to see significant changes in our foreign policy and our domestic policies. Every police chief in this country, every police chief, you ought to know something. And that goes for all of you who take the role of a General Milley, if you will, and Joint Chiefs of Staff. If you don't have the courage and the guts to stand up for the men and women who you're sending into danger, then resign, quit, retire. You need to stand up. As organizations, you got the International Association of Police Chiefs. Every state has a Police Chiefs Association. We've got a National Police Chiefs Association. Instead of being more worried about your pensions, how about being worried about the people and the future of this country? Stand up like men and women and tell those politicians that you've had enough. All you have to do is have a little courage, that's all. They're not going to fire you. They can't. You're all protected by civil service. Fact of the matter is that you need to stand up, like some of the sheriffs have along this country that are elected. Like the people, the law enforcement officers and the sheriffs in Florida, for example, or in South Dakota. Just don't roll over and die because a politician says something that causes you to shake in your pants. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You're sending young men and women into combat on the streets of this country. And then you're telling them that, well, you know, you can't use the word ma'am or sir. Or you got to worry about when you fill out a report that a person may be non-binary. If they don't want to put their sex down, they could put X. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But this is a direct result, yes, of a Democrat Communist Party that's taking control, but it's also a direct result of what you failed to do. And I've got to tell you, now this may be a little bit of an over-exaggeration, I'll admit it, but I can't think of anything else but this example. In the 1930s and 40s, there was a country called Germany, and there was an individual named Adolf Hitler who was creating a political party, and it was called the Nazi Party. Day by day, hour by hour, step by step, they began to take over neighborhood by neighborhood, town by town, city by city. And they put enough fear into the hearts of their military leaders in Germany and their local law enforcement officers that they took control of the whole country. And the rest was history, because nobody had the guts. Nobody had the guts and courage to stand up and to say enough is enough. That's why I thank God for the people just north of the United States and Canada who have stood up like men and women who are fighting a tyrannical government there. And I thank God for the people of my country, the United States of America, the American patriots who believe in this Constitution and are working hard and fighting hard day in and day out to send the Democrat Communist Party of this country where the Soviet Communist Party is sitting right now, and that's in the ash bin of history. It's all about courage, folks. To my friends, my neighbors, my American patriots, it's about doing what Linda Barber said earlier. Stand up, run for office. Don't run away, for goodness sakes. Run for office. Stand up and run for office. And if you're not going to run for office, run to the person who's got the guts and courage to stand up, the ability to stand up, and help them. We need to help each other, because a house divided, the word of God says, cannot stand. And the communists that are in our countries are looking to divide us. This is why, when Linda explained earlier that a member of my party, the Republican Party, decided to not invite them to a Republican event, that's very troubling to me, because that's what we know. But what about the things we don't know within our own party? And that, folks, has got to stop. That has got to stop. We as a party here in America, we as American patriots, Canadians, you need to do the same thing, and you're doing it well. And I know we're working hard and doing it well here. And those in all the countries that are watching, you need to come together as a united front. Strong, tough. Don't be bullied. It's courage. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it if you don't do it? And finally, I end with this. I just touched upon this the other night, and I'll touch upon this again and again and again. Every day I get letters and emails, even as recent as today, saying somebody should do something. God should do something. God, they pray, help us. God, do this and do that. What would not lead you to believe that God is going to use you to do something, that he heard your call, and now he's calling to you? As Isaiah heard God's call, whom shall I send? Isaiah, whom shall I send? And Isaiah looked around, and then he looked up to the heavens and said, send me. And God sent Isaiah, and he changed the world. You may be that person. Maybe you won't be that person to change the world, but by golly, you'll be able to plant seeds as you walk this journey of the life that God has given us to live. You are about to make history because you're living in a time, the time I'm living in, to make a significant change in the destiny of the United States of America, the destiny of Canada, the destiny of the list of countries that I mentioned that are now under fire from communism. But the great part of everything we're doing, we know the end of the story. They lose and we win. All right, folks. So I'll see you Thursday night. We'll have some guests on regarding and great updates about our situation in Canada and what we're doing to help out. I got some good news for you. We're really moving forward with some of the things we're doing. And so pray for us, pray for your nations, pray for the people who are stepping up. And you know what? I think things are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. We've been here before, maybe a little rougher now, but things are going to be fine. And remember, God hears you. He hears you. He doesn't put your prayers in his pocket and runs around heaven and does nothing with them. He hears you, and he's going to answer your prayers. There's our website, campaign4america.com. Campaign4america.com. I ask you that if you can help us out a little bit, one of two ways. Please pray for us. And if you can help us out with a small contribution, that's fine. We've got a load of people have been sending us contributions of $5, $10. I mean, folks, it doesn't matter the amount, okay? Because it all adds up. And what do we do with that money? Well, we've got a lot of expenses. And look, we pray that God sends those who he calls to help us. And that's it. But pay your bills first. Feed your family first. Your family comes first. We come second. All right, that's it. See you Thursday night, 7:00 p.m. here at the Patriot Desk. God bless you. God bless all freedom-loving people around the world. Thank you for joining me. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.